All right, well, today we are going to be upgrading, outfitting, basically rebuilding and dramatically upgrading my 300 horsepower, 4-seat supercharged mini jet boat here. I absolutely love this little thing. It has been so much fun, and of course, in usual gearhead fashion, it's time to take it to the next level. And it has been, and I've been collecting the parts, but I broke it again. I've broken the same part multiple times now, and I decided to go nuclear on upgrading it and replace the steering tilt helm that I had with the steering boxes that would break, which you can't buy individually, with this stuff. A micro sprint car steering rack, universal race car column, bunch of stuff that's not meant for a boat. Now, that required designing and machining a bunch of parts and learning how to machine along the way. That was part of the point of the process. And now we're about to find out whether or not the several days I spent designing and machining these parts was worth it, really, or not. I.e., if they fit and everything hooks up like it's supposed to. I have not tested it yet. Then, you know, I'll be honest, I am dreading it a little bit, because if it goes wrong, it's going to be pretty disappointing. But, you know, excuse now, it was still a great learning experience. I learned a lot from the first part to the last one. So if not for anything else, we have that. But hopefully everything goes together like it should, i.e. like I think it's going to go together, because I designed it that way. So yeah, it's time to jump straight into the moment of truth, see if all these parts fit. If so, I think we got a couple more parts maybe to make, a couple small things, but mainly we got a bunch of high performance upgrades to do, and those are bolt-on, so that hopefully shouldn't be too bad. Definitely not as time consuming as designing and making our own parts. We got that part out of the way. Oh well, assuming that we don't have to remake them, but again, we're not going there. We're going there. Let's go install these. Let's find out. All right, real quick before we get too deep into it, because we have a lot to do. A lot to do. I always bite off more than I can chew with this thing. Speaking of chewing, today's video is sponsored by Grooms. Now, if you're like me, I'm a bit of a dog with a bone. With projects, with things, trying to find kind of the ideal solution. And it's pretty rare that it works out, that you find one and you're like, well, that's it. Pack it up. But I have been trying all sorts of different greens powders, multivitamins, cold press juices, all these things over the years, right? And I mean, don't get me wrong, they're different. They have the pros and cons, but it's kind of split in hairs. They're all kind of similar in my opinion. Until I found Grooms, and then it was like, all right, pack it up, we're done. Found the solution, because something that I think is often overlooked is the daily values. It always has kind of freaked me out a little bit when there's a daily value on there that's like 1,000%, 1,500%. Grooms absolutely nails their daily values. The vitamins are all right around 100%. Minerals 25%. So it's kind of the perfect amount. Not to mention the elephant in the room, or the gummy bear in the room, the gummy form factor. And this is a big thing. I mean, one, from the standpoint of just enjoyment, right? It's easier to stick with something you enjoy. I've learned that time and time again. No matter how much I try to tell myself I'm super disciplined, if I enjoy it, it's easier to stick with. But it's more than that. These being methylated and the gummy form factor, instead of a lot of these vitamins and minerals passing right through you before your body gets a chance to absorb them, your body actually has time to absorb them. Now, on top of all of that, they are delicious. I'm not talking like tolerable for how many vitamins, minerals, prebiotics, whole food ingredients they have in them. I'm talking, if these were just a snack in your pantry that was bad for you, you would eat them, kind of thing. If you try it yourself, you'll know what I mean. So if you're interested in trying it for yourself, click the link down below to get up to 52% off. So it's a great deal, so you can see firsthand. Take the don't eat more than one pack challenge. You shouldn't eat. It's designed exactly for one pack, so don't. I'm just saying, I'm curious to see how hard it is for you, because it is tough for me. So anyway, we got a lot of work to do. I'm gonna get my daily energy and get to work, because I don't know if I mentioned it, we got a lot to do. all apart, one fits. It's up there nicely. Countersunk bolts work. This we're gonna get rid of, but for right now, we'll just leave these somewhere. That would slip out. Oh man, the simplest part as far as fit wise, but it's pretty cool to see our billet steering bracket in there. Because this is what I see when I'm driving the boat. Get to see my hard work. All right, now we need to get the column in here and see if it's gonna line up with where we need to put the box. Oh, this is gonna be so sick. So yeah, I definitely don't want it like that. I think angle-wise, probably about there. Definitely, I mean, I kind of like it up there. We're definitely gonna want to raise it, I think. Might have to scooch it in a tiny bit. We're definitely gonna have a pretty short steering shaft. I think this angle's fine though. Alright, well, good news so far is all of this fits. It looks pretty sick. And we have a quick release now, so we can take the steering wheel off. We're going to make our wiring quick release too. That plugs into the throttle, so we can just pop, pop. But we need to try to mount our steering box. We're gonna have to try to make a drop down bracket for this. Alright, well, back to the drawing board. Not to start over, but just to make a additional piece. Well, after checking my material stockpile and looking at how we can make drop-down brackets, none of the ideas thrilled me. It was pretty disappointing after spending all that time. But looking at the column, I thought maybe we can chop this thing down and then just shorten it, make it like a stubby column because the steering shaft itself slides in and out. And what do you know? It seems like we can make it happen. We've got to weld it back together just right because this whole thing rotates. And cutting it, I thought it was steel, but then when I was cutting it, I'm like, oh wow, this is aluminum. That's pretty interesting. So went ahead and welded it up AC with aluminum rod, and I have never seen a weld look like this before. I was a little baffled for a second before I accepted the reality that I must have been wrong. And what do you know, the magnet test confirmed it is steel. And when you weld it with steel filler rod on DC, it did, to no surprise, welds great. So, yeah, little foible on my part, but we got that taken care of. Now we've got to do effectively the same for the shaft. We don't have to weld it back together, luckily. The reason we have to weld the column housing back together is because where the splines are internally is at the end and blah, blah, blah. But with this, I've got the micro lathe too, which, all this whole project has been about dabbling and learning with the micro mill. So I wanted to try to use this to cut the C-clip groove back in, which just keeps the shaft from falling out effectively. It's kind of working, but it's not working as well as I would have liked. This being a hardened steel shaft and trying to cut such a tiny groove in it. So I conceded to just clean it up, make the end of the spines nice and not so jagged, so that it slides in and out nice. Now another problem we have is this steering rack is discontinued, and I know why now, because the splines they used when they built this rack are from none other than a Yamaha Rhino. Of all things, they used matching spines for a Yamaha Rhino UTV. Don't ask me why, because I don't know why. And there are hardly any steering joints available for that spine size. It is a super oddball spine size. So I got a more common one because I thought that's what it was supposed to be. And yeah, obviously it doesn't fit perfect. So for good measure, welded it on. Now, the biggest thing with all of this is this, I call it a dog bone link that I made, because it has to match up in space in the boat with where the rack mounts, and that's where things get tricky. So if all this works, we're in good shape. The shame is that you can't see any of it from out here. It's all tucked up under the dash. Fanciest parts I've ever made in my dang life, and they're all hidden, but it worked out. I tried to get the measurement right. I pocketed that so that way it would basically be in line with this. That bolted up nice and firm. That worked out. Yeah, wow. Well, those work. I got a lot of metal shavings I need to clean up. But we got to put together our column now. We got the parts and pieces for our stubby shaft. Chugging away. Let's finish up this steering. A minute to remember basically where I had this thing adjusted to. Oh yeah, we are Gucci. Look at that functional steering. Could even go all the way down here. Oh no, it starts to become not functional about there. But we're gonna be like here anyway. Well, looks like that's gonna work. Success. Oh. Now we've got to basically do that heim joint for here to keep this thing from flopping around on us. Basically, since the first mount's a heim joint, which does allow us a lot of adjustment, it also, there's nothing, you have to have a secondary mount to hold the steering shaft. So I'm starting to push my limits on Fusion design to try to design this bracket the way I have it in my head. That's where things get tricky. You got to take something from your head and try to make it, put it on paper, except computer, I guess, in this case. And what I still need to do is make that angle at the end flat. And that was, again, something I have not done yet in Fusion. Took me a little bit of tinkering, but eventually I figured it out. And I also figured out how to get the vise, this new vise that I got, into Fusion so we can use it, and basically it'll know where it is and it'll avoid that but cut everything else. I've been doing it kind of the halfway way, let's say. But now that we've got our plan, we got to cut our stock, which is kind of the worst part of this with this thick aluminum, because even though aluminum's soft, man, it's a lot to cut through. It's chugging away. But in the spirit of things, we are going to be running a massive end mill at a lot of speed, which is a lot for this machine, but we'll see if it works. So I think this is definitely on the limit, but we're not taking huge bites out. So I don't know. We got to find out, We got to find out. We won't know till we know, That rhymes. All right, let's try it. Fire in the hole. Well, that answers that. It wasn't really a problem of the piece or the machine, but the vise. So I had to throw in the towel on that one. This cheap low-profile vise that I got just doesn't, it's definitely not meant for this. It doesn't have anywhere near the holding power. I mean, the good news is the machine seemed to take it, but it's a pretty large end mill. When I first started down this journey of learning this machine, which really was only like a couple weeks ago, the 3/8 end mill didn't seem that large, but after using it, it's pretty spicy. Pretty big end mill to be. You can just, the larger it is, the more material you can take and the faster you can go, because it's not. It's a lot stronger. The smaller ones aren't quite as strong. So the whole goal here is to be fast and accurate. A lot of times I don't need as much accuracy. Obviously, I want it to be accurate-ish, but the goal is just to get the parts done quick, because the quicker we can get them done, the more feasible it is to actually make parts like this for oddball things here and there. If it's going to take me a whole day or two to make a part, you start to kind of pick and choose what's worth making. So the goal here is, that compromise. Now, the thing is, with our new vise, it bolts from the bottom for whatever reason, so there's no real good way to attach it to the table, but I really want to try having the vise, integrated into the cam profile, so we basically got to make a tool for our tool to make our part. This is definitely kind of what I assumed machining was going to be like, making tools to make parts, or making parts for tools to make parts. I think you get what I'm saying. Once I had my fixture plate made for the vise, we could then fixture the part in the vise, so that way we could use the advantages of having the vise in the CAD profile. This is definitely the type of stuff that I thought I wouldn't have the patience for, taking the extra time to save time, but, in the long run, we'll have this vise plate, and this vise, we have it in Fusion, so we can always put it in for our part, so it definitely was worth it, but it's tough when you're just trying to get something done, and you gotta weigh that balance between, do I take the time now to set this up better, or do I just wing it? But man, that's definitely been, for me, the hardest part of this little machining journey is, one, figuring out all the specs and the feeds and the speeds, because I admittedly like to just wing it instead of doing the research I should probably do, but two, just holding the dang parts in a way where it can machine all of it, but also it's held tight. So fortunately, with all the geometry of this one, we were able to get through it with our concoction here. So that's good news. I've been dreading this part because I knew it would be hard. All right, well, definitely challenging, but it's definitely, geometry-wise, the most complicated piece I've had to make. I do have to drill holes in it, obviously. Should do the trick. Be like that. Beautiful. I kind of guesstimated on the clearance we need for the nut, but look at that, we're good. But I have a feeling we're going to be running it all the way up. We'll have to find out. But I got those holes drilled. This hole I drilled out to 3/4. So I actually got metric drill bits recently, so nice tight fit. It's a 10 mil drill bit instead of the too large or too small standard equivalent. So it's going to go in there like that, under the dash, then the column. Well, like this. Bada bang. All right, let's try to put this in, and then we can wrap up the steering system. As I might have mentioned, I was kind of dreading this part the most, also because of mounting it, because the other parts we got to mount to effectively the stringers, the bracing, or the dash. But this has to mount to the dash, which required taking out the instrument cluster to drill the holes, and there's a lot of wiring there in the way, but we got it in. That's what matters. We got it in. It's the right height, how it should be. It actually worked out. Now we've just got to basically drill our locking holes for the steering shaft. It's called like a D-lock steering shaft. It's got the flats on the sides that lock it in, but then also you put effectively a set screw bolt all the way through it to keep it from coming out. So now that we're confident in our location and our length, it's time to button it up for good. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Probably shouldn't say that. have steering. And it's adjustable. I just adjusted it down. We can go up to our plate, bolted in, stainless bolts, to our micro sprint car rack, and then our cable housing holder. Wow! Look at that. Steering system done and dusted. Whoa! It's so light, so smooth and tight. Yeah, I like the steering position. I might have to push it in a little bit, but that's good. It's not good necessarily, but it's good that we have the ability to do that. Height-wise and everything, I think it's good. Yeah, we got it pretty much right where we want it. Wow, what a feeling, dude. Oh, to come through all of that, all of this design and learning how to CNC and then it all fitting in here like it should. Check it out. Look at that. What a snazzy freaking unit, man. Between that and all our underdash pieces. All the pieces of this here puzzle. Look at that. I mean, obviously we're not under throttle, but still. One of the nice things too is that the old steering setup, because it was going straight through here, it hung way down here. Oh man, whew. All right, I don't want to jibber jabber on too much. Feels good, it's done. Lots of custom part making, but I've been dreaming about doing this project for a long time. Ever since the second steering box broke. There was a guy who I want to give a shout out to on the jet boat pages. I posted asking what people were doing for steering setups because I'm like, I keep breaking the C-Star column, and a guy had used a micro sprint car rack. I'm not sure what all he did for the column. He used like what I was going to do initially, like a, probably plasma cut piece of aluminum welded in for mounting the micro sprint car rack, but I would have never thought of a micro sprint car rack. Like, this is perfect because it can push-pull the cable. It's hardened gears, billet. Like, it's going to be way stronger than all this freaking garbage, freaking pot metal junk. So, yeah, anyway, shout out to him for the idea and the inspiration. I got to do the part that I don't want to do because otherwise I might not do it. It's, I'll show you under there. It's bad. Basically, we got to weld this brace in, and then I had to cut it in half. I wasn't planning on that, and but I was planning on maybe adding a square tube. I was going to do this with a square tube, but I don't have enough square tube. So weld it, square tube, something like that. It's because it split here where this radio is, so you can see where it's split before, and then it's cracked over here, out here. See that big old crack there and out to there. Before the steering wheel, all that load was going straight into the dash. Like, you could just rock the whole dash up and down with the steering wheel. That's a lot better now because it's mounted in 2 spots. So anyway, I got a plan for that, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So I'm not looking forward to it because I gotta MIG weld the aluminum upside down, and I have done very minimal MIG welding with aluminum so far. I've done enough, but not so much that I know what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? So, see how this goes. Really? That fast? No. This is not enjoyable. at all. The downside to aluminum MIG welding is that aluminum's soft, so if there's any bind in the feed, it can just bunch up, and I don't have quite the right size tips, so it was an arduous process, not enjoyable, but now we get to move on to something that should hopefully be a lot more enjoyable, which is making a brace plate for under the radio. Now, I don't know if you couldn't really see how bad it flexes, but I mean, when you would hit a wake before with the old steering wheel, at least, the whole dash would bounce up and down dramatically. It was bad, so it's got to get braced, and the problem is that radio's so big that I can't make that hole any smaller. Putting a piece of flat bar underneath wouldn't really work, plus I have to grind all the paint down to weld to it, so naturally, in the spirit of things, we got to do another billet piece. So basically, this is going to be a billet brace to effectively surround the radio and brace up that part of the dash so that it's complete. Right now, it's effectively cut in the middle, and the middle is right where you step to get in and out of the boat. So it's a bad deal. It's not really even remotely ideal of a scenario for us. Now, the problem is we're still learning here. I haven't mentioned that enough this time. We're learning, and in the process, the cam profile, it cut too much to where I then couldn't really clamp it in the vise. This piece is also kind of too big to clamp in the vise in one spot, to do the whole thing. So I had to resort to manually controlling the machine and manually milling it, which I gotta say, all of it mesmerizing, very satisfying. Watching those chips fly. Look at all them shavings. Big old shavings, too. It's pretty solid. I think I'm going to throw a ball head on there real quick. Well, Operation Stiffen the Dash was a messy one. That's for sure. It was quite messy. But I would say it was successful because we've got our brace plate here. It fit pretty nice. I had to do a lot of manual milling, thin it down some more, but it snugs up. I'm not in love with the way it looks just because it's too close to this, but it did the job. This is the piece that we cut off. And between that and the angle, I'm glad I did it before. Nothing, dude. No flex whatsoever. That's crazy. This is my first real, ripping on it test. And that's important because when you climb in and out of the boat, this is where you step. Wow. That's so nice. It was flexing so bad before. But yeah, welding under here was a nightmare. Way worse than I thought. I forgot how messy aluminum MIG welding is. Really large balls and of slag flying off, and then they stay molten. So whatever they hit, they're catching on fire. It didn't help that this moving blanket is like the most fire-prone moving blanket I've ever used. But even without Mr. I like to catch on fire way too easily moving blanket, it was still, it was one of those things. So at least, I mean, it's so much better. When I would hit wakes before, the whole thing was like, especially with all the weight of the column hanging off it. So anyway, I could jibber jabber on and on. That is done. And man, I can't tell you how good it feels to the column stuff all worked out. What a relief. There was a point where I was getting a little burnt out on this project because I was spending so much time on it. And I went into it with the intention of this is a learning experience, practice, learning the CNC machine, trial by fire, as much as it is for the end result. But even still, man, after like a week of designing and making parts, I was like, so the fact that it all bolted in and it all seems to work, now we get to do the bolt-on parts. It's going to require a little disassembly. So yeah, let's start tearing down the backside here. as much as I've gotten better about not dabbling too much in the while you're there, is the jet boat here, man. It always gets me with something. While I had this intake box that I built out, I decided to go ahead and gold foil wrap it to heat insulate it. But I didn't waste too much time on that. I just, it was as good a time as ever. But we got to basically take apart the entire drivetrain from the nozzle jet pump perspective. And all of this stuff I've taken apart many times. It's kind of annoying to take apart, but also in the grand scheme of things, not bad. That's one of the benefits of working on the old jet boat, is compared to cars, I feel like for the most part, it's not too bad to work on. All right, so this is everything off the boat that we're replacing. This is all the stock stuff. So this is all from a 2017 Sea-Doo RXB 300, which is what our drivetrain came out of. So we got our pump nozzle, and then our steering nozzle here, all the bracketry and such. These are for, apparently that thread no longer works. These are for the trim. We got obviously the big old hefty reverse bucket here, and then the IBR setup. So this is kind of what controls all the bucket movements. So, from startup to up for forward, all the way down for reverse, brake, all of that. Let me show you what we've got to go on. Oof, man, I am so excited for this. You probably can't see anything. Hold on. What a unit. So this right here is the posi nozzle from MiniJet. Now this is an upgrade in a lot of ways, and we also have all the stuff we need to make it work and switch, because we are effectively ditching all of the stock stuff. But this is a good example of sometimes you change your mind with new information, because you asked me even a year ago if I was, considering putting this kind of nozzle on my boat. I would have told you absolutely not. Why would I do that when I have this, factory stock setup? Works just fine. But there's one thing that completely flipped my perception and is really what led me to ordering this setup. Basically, the way this works is we have the IBR. So you have your throttle lever and your IBR lever, let's call it. Let me show you how this works. So here's how you work this thing, our current setup. So when we fire it up, we're gonna be in quote unquote neutral, where the bucket's like half down. The problem is, you can see we're going backwards faster now. It's kind of like half reverse, and then we click that, now we're in forward. So that's just bucket up. We click it again, neutral, and then if we hold it, reverse. So the bucket's all the way down, and then we throttle in reverse. And then for trim, we've got our buttons here, boom, boom. But see, it takes a second. That's the trim right there. So it takes a second to click all the way down and then click back up. So I'll show you why. So that's brake, and I'm full throttle, and then so it doesn't let you throttle until you've come completely off plane. Which, if the brake worked like it probably does on the jet ski, that wouldn't really be a problem. I mean, it would still be nice to throttle in reverse, but throttling in reverse is like brakes on a boat. So I basically don't have any brakes with this setup. The other thing is the steering is super heavy, so it's okay like that, but as soon as I'm on throttle, you can't see force, but I kind of have to let off and turn and then throttle. Also, the boat pulls to the right, so I'm pushing hard left. If I push right, it goes right. Or if I let off, I mean. So you'll notice every time I come into a turn like this, I let off and then throttle once I have it turned, because otherwise I can't get the dang thing to turn, really. There's so much force acting against it. So effectively, the IBR is fully fly-by-wire. Everything is computer controlled and fly-by-wire. Not only your forward reverse, but your trim. It uses these plastic guides and these rollers to trim up and down, which I've broken my fair share of these, and buckets as well. This thing sticks out like a sore thumb, literally, and likes to break off. But effectively, where this is fly-by-wire, this is the exact opposite of that. This is all mechanical. So instead of our electronic box here, we're gonna be adding 2 cables, and we'll have our mini jet twin lever system. So we've got forward and reverse lever, trim lever, and effectively it's all mechanical. We're dishing the entire electronic side of things for our mechanical side. Now, there's definitely pros and cons to both. It's kind of what your flavor is, I guess. You know, the benefit to the IBR is you can kind of like bop between forward and reverse with both hands on the wheel with your lever, but downside is, obviously it's electronic. And there are some gremlins there that I've had before. With this, it's all mechanical, which also means we can do whatever we want, whenever we want. We can go between forward and reverse. We can change the trim. With this, we're kind of at the mercy of the computer. Now, normally with a boat, your brakes is throwing it in reverse and hitting the throttle. But with the intelligent system, it won't let you do that. It will not let you, because it's also drive-by-wire. It can override you giving it throttle. So effectively, you have no brakes. I had to learn that lesson the hard way with this boat. When I first got it and was getting used to the handling, if I'd come into a turn that was too tight and try to bail out, bailing out basically is not an option, which I learned, because by the time it lets you throw the coals to it in reverse, it's too late. You are in the berm, you're in the trees, whatever. I've been there many times. Learn, like I said. Now, I did figure out pretty quickly that the key is just don't bail out. Again, it's not an option. You throw it full lock and you floor it. That's generally your best bet to make it through one of those turns. And that works most of the time, but there are times where it would be nice, at the very least, to be able to stop on a dime. Especially on the group rides, because we're going through really gnarly places. The one, we were in the woods, through the thick of it, and I just blasted through some trees, and Ronnie Renner was up ahead of me, and he turned because there was a tree or something in the way, and so I was heading to T-bone him. And I immediately got on the brake, but obviously it didn't really do anything. And I'm full throttle just waiting for this thing to let me put the coals to it and slow down. And I could see the look on his face of panic, because I'm not slowing down much because I can't do anything about it, you know? I did stop in time and it was fine, but point is, that is one of the things I'm really looking forward to. Not to mention being able to adjust the trim on the fly and have a lot more trim range. Because of the way this adjusts the trim, they're pretty limited. So all of that is great, and I would say all of that alone was enough reason for me to do this, but it actually wasn't the reason I started down this rabbit hole. The main reason is something that I'm honestly kind of embarrassed I never noticed prior to this. It's one of those things, once you see it, you can't unsee it. I'm curious if anyone can guess what the main reason is, but it'll be easier for me to show you once I get it installed. I think we're center. Yeah, okay. So yeah, let me get it installed, and then I'll show you what I'm talking about. It'll make more sense. Oh shoot, you weren't supposed to see that. I'm not going down the rabbit hole, I promise. No, we're not going deep. I promise we're not going deep down the rabbit hole. Just the new nozzle setup my air actuators weren't really in a good spot for my air actuated stomp grate system that I did not too long ago. And I had made them out of steel because I think I had the CNC machines then, but I just kept putting off learning how to use them. So while we're here, you know, while you're there is will always get you. I wanted to remake them, and I needed to reorient them anyway. That's my excuse, at least, for clearance with all the cables, because a lot of things are changing. It's built around the IVR setup, and including changing the orientation meant we had to change the lines slightly. This is a system that I dog with the bone did for sure, because I got it working and it was good, but it seemed like it could be better. And I ended up getting these quick exhaust valves to let more air out faster. And anyway, we got it working mint. Just required making bacon lines. So the usual. Now we've got to do our cable routing. And this I've been kind of dreading because I've admittedly kind of crammed a lot of stuff in this boat, like pack out boxes and storage and the big intake box that's set up so you can make it loud or quiet. And there's a lot of things to work around to get these cables, and they're pretty stiff. They're flexible, but they're not that flexible. You know, you got to get a kind of nice run at them, and we got to drill more holes through the boat. So, you know, a big moment, but we're most of the way there. So what we got to figure out, yeah, we are going to have to do that. Oh, okay, our trim lever's on the outside. Okay, yeah, this is what I kind of figured, but yeah, we're going to have to make a plate, like a drop down plate for mounting this. Oh, it's close, man. Let me look. There's a chance we could go through the side rail, but I kind of doubt it. All right, let me look at this. I think I'm gonna have to make like a drop down plate that holds this. It's probably gonna be the easiest way to do it. Oh, all right. Plate done. I was really hesitant to do this because I didn't want to spend a bunch of time on this because I've been going a little CNC. Oh, it's raining again. CNC machine crazy. But the alternative was to make a plate out of, regular plate aluminum and cut it, drill it, bend it, or have to weld it in, which is a pain because the rails are painted. And then use the plate. So anyway, my logic was that this took a similar amount of time, which I think it did. I mean, start to finish, probably 2 hours. Well, probably 2.5 to design it, set up the cam profile, machine the front side and the back side, and you know what I mean. For 3 hours max, start to finish, not too shabby. Oh, look at that, dude. That's pretty freaking cool. Oh, wait, it'll be there. Oh, it's going to be so close. 25 millimeters to the face. Oh, pop our levers on. We should have margin for the levers. I can figure out how to put them on. Boom. Yep. Got clearance. All right, let's see where we want to put this thing. Marker. Boom, now we got full. This is forward and reverse. Forward, reverse, and then trim. Yeah, it's rock solid. I mean, look at that. I'm grabbing it down here and it's barely any flex. All the flex is with the rail. Sweet. I think it was definitely worth taking a little bit of time to do the billet bracket instead of jankily welding something on there. This lever system's just so nice. It deserved it. It's tucked in there nicely too. Wow. Huh. I'm glad about that one. I was not planning on this one when I started down this journey. The only thing that's bothering me is these needed to be countersunk a little more. It's okay. I can't. So now that we got the levers mounted, we've got our whole nozzle system on, we got our cables routed, we got our holes drilled. It's just a matter of basically bulkheading the cables, which requires a bunch of silicone to make sure we ain't got no leaks. It's the downside to boat stuff. You always gotta seal it up nice. And from where I put the cables through, there was the trim one wasn't quite at the right angle. It was trying to bind up the heim joint and causing problems. So in the spirit of things, we're going to try to do an actual lathe project. We haven't really done any real project with the lathe, so we're going to try to make ourselves a spacer. And I'll be honest, I tried to avoid this one. I looked all over the shop trying to find something that I could use as a spacer to get my alignment a little better from where that cable went through. And I came up with nothing, empty-handed. So we got to do it. And I'll be honest, I'm glad we went this route, because man, it is a pretty satisfying process to manually lay the piece here. So I'm literally just using the keyboard, so I don't have the most control, and this needs to be tapered, but so far this is pretty enjoyable, man. I never thought I would get this into CNC machining stuff, but I'm loving it. Maybe too much. I don't know. You be the judge of that. For this little thing. Alright, well, I was trying to avoid making this, but got a spacer now that allows for more misalignment from this rod end. Do you see it? You can't, can you see it? Yeah, that should be a lot better. Well, that's a pretty funny one, because I just recently was thinking, man, maybe I shouldn't have got the lathe. Like, maybe that was overboard. I don't really have that many uses for a lathe. And then here we are. I think that was literally yesterday. You can see our, hold on, let me get you up in here. Little custom standoff tapered. So that way, basically, when we're trimmed all the way up, the heim joint still has a tiny bit of movement to it. That worked out great. I'm so glad. I was trying to avoid doing it. I'm so glad I did it. You can see our little sleeves for our rubber boots here for the cables. Pretty neat little snazzy little setup. Yeah, we got full trim. We got full forward and reverse. Everything's on. I gotta tighten those jam nuts down. I just realized while showing you that. I'm glad I showed you. Lines are done. Cool. I changed the oil. I don't know if I told you. Changed the oil. It was kind of due. And oh my gosh, I gotta show you the whole thing. I almost forgot. I got so caught up in my own thing. Okay, yeah, actually, let me just show you now, because this is probably the number one reason. Not probably. This is the number one reason why we're doing this. So, if you look at our stock nozzle here, you can see that the nozzle goes over top. One, we have our giant reverse bucket, which is incredibly cumbersome. I've broken a couple of these now, just because this hangs down. If you go to put it in reverse, it's a servo, so you can't feel it, and it'll just smash it into a branch if you're floating over one, or a tree, or a log. So I've broken at least two of them. But anyway, nozzle, that's your trim. You can see it's been notched down here to trim further down, and still limited, because then it hits down in there. Here is the key point here. So you have your jet pump nozzle, and then your steering nozzle. So what works as effectively your lock stop is when the steering nozzle makes contact with the jet nozzle, right? The thing is, if you look down in here, there is a gap all the way around it. This is effectively kind of floating over top of the jet pump nozzle. So if you imagine it like, say you got a fire hose, and you take a cone and just kind of put it over the end. Like, yeah, it's gonna go out of the end of the cone, but it's also gonna splash back at you. And that's effectively what happens here, because even in a straight line, there's gaps, which there's more of a gap on the one side, so that's part of why I have to kind of resist it wanting to push the nozzle one way. But then when you turn, it gets even worse because the tip of the nozzle is right there. So the water can either choose to go here or just push out this way. You're kind of fighting that pressure, and then when you go to turn, you've got that cushion of water flowing out the wrong direction that you're fighting, which I have to completely let off throttle, steer, and then get back on throttle, and it kind of wants to pull it back. And it's super inefficient because a lot of the water, instead of just all going out the nozzle, is going the wrong way, effectively. So with this, with the mini jet nozzle, this is a completely sealed socket joint. Instead of being a nozzle over top of the jet pump, it is a sealed joint, which not only makes it more efficient, it makes the steering a lot smoother because you're not fighting that water pressure, and just in general, it's a much nicer joint. And it gives us way more trim range and more steering range. And I'm really excited to see the difference when steering. Because if you think that one, when steering, it's a lot of the water just blasting out the wrong way. With this one, all the water, even if we're turned full walk, is going out where we're pointing it. So that was really the biggest selling point for me, and what made me decide to finally go ahead and make the switch was having that realization. I saw it at Simflow Marine Shop. I was there getting my third steering box, and I looked at one of these, and it finally all clicked, like, why this is so much better, you know? I thought it was just about kind of the trim and performing better as far as like speed and acceleration, but that completely changed it for me. I mean, look at how much of a gap that is. That's the top of the nozzle right there. So anyway, yeah, let's drop it down. Let's put this thing the rest of the way back together. All right, I got all this put back together. I got my gold wrap, heat reflective, and I even put a thicker silica mat on the back because that's the exhaust. I got the cables secured, and yeah, I think we're all put back together back here. Oh, I threw the IBR servo back in there. It's got to be in there for now until I can take the boat to Simflow and have them tune out the IBR. But what we need to do now is get our throttle lever. This is the biggest thing. I've been putting this off. Mounted to the steering wheel some way, shape, or form. And because we have extended our reach and it's removable, we need to not only extend our throttle wires here, but I want to make them quick disconnect. So we can take the steering wheel off, take it with us like a race car, you know what I'm saying? That way it's easier to not as easy to steal, you know what I'm saying? Basically, got to see if we can modify this to fit around that steering wheel, which is even thicker than this one, which I already cut all the foam out of this spot to clamp it on here. Definitely think there's enough meat. Oh yeah, for sure. Sounds so funny. Okay. Technically, that should be the right side. Oh no, it didn't get this bottom bit. I can get that with something. Check it out. But look at that. Got a perfect fit. So now I need to, I am gonna have to take this apart anyway, duh. I gotta clean off the anodizing and then try to zap it on. Really need to get some new gloves. I forget that the fingertips are burnt through on these. But I touched something and burned my fingers. Oh, it's upside down. That doesn't help. Spare IVR lever. Turns out I have 2 spare IVR levers, not a spare IVR and a spare throttle, which is kind of lame, especially now that we won't be using this. I'll zip tie that up if it works. I don't know if that one works. The throttle thing worked out. That's better than I even hoped, to be honest with you. Came out pretty decent. I'm not saying it's great or anything, but I was worried it was going to be terrible and just a complete eyesore. But doing the machine process to open it up, got the nice perfect, and then, yeah, you know, I left the lever, the bronze color. But yeah, so we got our little extension harness I made with a 6-pin Deutsch, small one. Now we just need to see if it all works. So we'll plug this in to our stern wheel. It's a little tight because of this way this connector works. So then yeah, you would just pop the steering wheel on. And then plug her in. Oh yeah, we got plenty of range. So yeah, now we're gonna find out if our stuff's good. If not, we'll get a beep that'll try to blow our eardrums out. I'm not gonna start it right now because it'll blow water all over the shop. Please don't beep at me. Okay. Think we're good? Throttle works. Cool. All right. Sick. All right. Well, I think that's... Well, I gotta put the seats back in, but the steering works. Yeah, I think that's optimal there. And then it's also nice because if we need to pull the steering wheel off, boom. Quick release on the boat. All right, let me put this thing back together. Boom. All right. Well, that is project done and dusted. I'm still so happy with the throttle lever. That was like one of the things I kept worrying about. Not sure how it was gonna go. Yeah, wow, what a feeling, man. So many parts. So many parts. Oh, I've been working towards being able to do this for 10 years now. And obviously kind of an oddball project to do it on, but also a good one because of, you know, its purpose and all of that. And oh man, I'm really happy with this. Worked out great, nice bolt-on solution. Boom, everything turned out as good as I had hoped, including the functional aspects of the steering under the dash. So yeah, wiring done. Boom, steering wheel, connector. Seems like it's not throwing any codes. Now I just gotta put this thing back on the trailer. Go give it a shakedown, which unfortunately, the boat ramp I usually go to is closed because the water's so high, which I'm like, I don't really love going to the other one just because it's like way larger and busier normally. And it's a lot further to get to the spots I like to ride. Even when the boat's fine, obviously. So testing the boat out, not the best place. But we gotta test this thing out. I just wish my close boat ramp was open. Oh, thank you. I just did a bunch of changes to it. It's my first time taking it back out, so I don't know how it's gonna do. I know, right? I just found out it doesn't want to come out of reverse when it's on, so that's good to know. See, I think we can throw it into reverse, we just can't get it out. It's because of how I set the cable up. I was kind of worried about that. Oh yeah, let's see. Let's go. Yeah, how I set the cable up, I put it on the lower one just because of like where the links were. And I should have put it on the higher one because I think it over centers. Anyway, I'll have to mess with that. I mean, kind of expected. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you'll know this is the beach spot I normally come to, and it is non-existent because of how high the water is. And it's like everywhere is a no-wake zone now. Not everywhere, but pretty much like we're about to get to another one, and then there'll be a gap, and then another one up closer to up by where I'm at, where I put in. Trying to decide if I want to send it on up there. Obviously the sun is already doing its thing, but I don't know, we'll see how I'm feeling. Was the nozzle. I mean, I was like hoping that I wasn't wrong on that because that was one of my main reasons for doing this. But I was like, worst case, if I am wrong on it, then we'd still have a way better setup. But it's good that fixed it. This thing drives dead straight now. Throttle, and I had to really like crank on it to steer. Now I'm just like I said, I think for the gnarly rides, I'll probably want to push this down like just a tiny bit. It's a little close. I like having a close wheel, but I think this might be a little close. But everything dash is solid now. The trims, it not only the steering though, power wise, like it's like it's so different. Like it just goes like I don't like it not gonna play that fast. got it on the trailer. Well, got this thing back in the shop, and I did take it back out. I may have said this before, but I can be a bit of a dog with a bone, and I had to try it. So basically, if you look, this is our reverse steel. I had it in the lower hole, so I swapped it to the top hole. But in that process, I noticed that I had punched my cable through a little bit offset. So I made us another spacer, another manual lathe project, which is cool because now it matches. And I did fix it. Now it goes into reverse, no problem. So that was that as expected. I was a little worried about that, but I cannot even put into words how I feel right now. It seems silly, it's a jet boat, but I mean, I love this thing, but just everything about this. Number one, the stuff we did, because I've been working towards this for so long, and to finally do it, to go from having machined one test piece and then straight into this project when making the plate, and then from there to here to having all of this done and installed in the boat, and then going and testing it and it being as good as I hoped it would be, and the result being everything I hoped it would be. A lot of times it's a letdown, you're all excited it's going to make all this difference, and it doesn't. This was not that, man. I'm in love with it. Like the steering wheel, the steering position, having the lever welded on, having everything tucked under the dash now, the dash being tighter. The thing's been bothering me for probably a year now. Like having the trim and just seeing it every time I look at it and get in and out of it, I'm stoked. Like it is everything I hoped and dreamed it would be. And this is the most satisfying project I've ever done. And that's like the point of doing this, and why I'm always trying to learn new things. And it's to be more self-sufficient, but also I just love the process of learning. You go from having no idea how to do something and just feeling that progress and the satisfaction. Like, man, you can't beat that feeling, dude. You can't. It's like, and my hope is to continue improving with every build. So this won't be the most satisfying project ever forever, but the Miata will probably become that for sure. But wow, I'm just elated. I'm on cloud 9 right now with the result of this thing. And to be honest, for all my efforts in the steering department, the dang nozzle stole the show, dude. This thing blew away every expectation. Like having the seal joint, steering-wise, absolute night and day. I used to go full lock to lock to get this thing to turn, and it was kind of sluggish. Like you really had to work it to get it to turn. It was just not very responsive or nimble. And now it's like, just butter. You don't even have to modulate throttle. It just turns because all your thrust is going where you're pointing it, as opposed to, blasting around the freaking bursting at the seams of this nozzle. But what really surprised me is the dang performance. I mean, we haven't even optimized it. You can see these nozzle inserts we can change so we can find the right size one. And I got their Mini Jets nozzle insert test kit. So these are to test and see which size works best. So for all I know, it could be better, but when I took it back out tonight just to test the reverse, and it was cold. It's like a record cold for this time, this day or whatever. It's like in the 40s, it's getting dark, and I was like, I couldn't help it. I had to go out. But anyway, I went to the lake side because it's closer to the no wake zone. And I was ripping, and then it started getting choppy, so I turned around, and I decided to just lay into it with it trimmed up a bit. And dude, I thought this dang thing was gonna go to the moon. I have never, ever, ever felt this thing feel like that. It feels, seat of the pants, like it picked up 50, 75, maybe 100 horsepower. Like it is a whole nother planet from where it was before. I did not expect that. I mean, logically, it makes sense that this nozzle is way more efficient. But the level of efficiency, I gotta take a breath. I'm elated. Like everything went great. Everything's great. The boat, it's a whole new boat. I loved this boat before, but now, Oh man, a huge shout out to MiniJet. They were great to work with to help figure out what I needed. They were responsible in helping make this happen because these nozzles can be kind of hard to get. They're in high demand, and now I know why. I will never go back to a stock nozzle after this. And it's funny because I was so against this kind of like, you know, manual trim and this kind of nozzle before because of the manual trim, and now it's like, I'm like, wow, this is great. I can just trim down to go through wake, and I can trim up to get some speed, and you know, I can, yeah, whatever. Anyway, oh my gosh, I could jibber jabber on and on, but I gotta get back to work on the cars. We got a busy month ahead. I've got upgrades for the vet. We're gonna do a 3-day with it. Same with the bus. That's the plan. At least, so I need to do some upgrades to it. And we got the dang Cletus Freedom Factory race this weekend with Kevin. So, wow, yeah, we got a lot to do. So I'm glad I got this done. It took me a long time. I spent a lot, like probably 2 weeks total, start to finish on this project, making the parts and stuff, but learned a ton and blown away. For all the effort I put in, I'm that much happier with the result. Like, I can't even explain it. So, as always, let me know what you guys think. And yeah, wow. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. If you have any input, comments, questions, suggestions, comments, concerns, I need to change the seats. That's probably the last thing on my list that I can think of. To fresh ones with more color match to this, but I could jibber jabber on and on. I really could, but I know this video's already got to be ridiculously long, and I'm going to have a hard time trimming it down, so I need to wrap this up. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I will see you next time, right? Okay, goodbye. Oh, poor future me having to edit this. Oh, he's not going to enjoy all this footage, but hopefully you guys did.